Why do some Singaporeans lose their entire HDB flat and get banned from public housing for 5 years? Between 2017 and 2022, HDB took back 21 flats from its residents and received returns of 426 more flats because they couldn't fulfill MOP requirements. Today we are talking about the minimum occupational period, and this isn't just about waiting 5 years to sell. According to official HDB sources, violating MOP rules can result in financial penalties up to $50,000, complete loss of your flat through compulsory acquisition, and a 5-year ban from buying subsidized housing. Hi, I'm Toby, the HDB guy, and I've been in the property industry for more than 10 years. By the end of this video, you will understand what MOP requires, how to avoid the situations that caught those families who lost their flats, and the specific steps to protect your housing investment while staying completely within the rules. Let me start with a real case that shows why understanding MOP matters. I know a lady who bought her BTO flat in 2018, thinking she could rent out her entire flat while she stayed with her parents to save money. She believed this was okay as long as she didn't sell the flat. HDB investigated after receiving reports, and she not only lost her flat through compulsory acquisitions, but worse, she was banned from buying any subsidized housing for 5 years and had to pay financial penalties. This happened because she misunderstood what MOP actually requires. According to Ministry of National Development data, from 2017 to 2022, HDB took enforcement action in 53 cases for non-occupation, with 21 flats compulsory acquired. But the larger number that most people miss is the 426 flats that were returned to HDB because owners couldn't fulfill MOP requirements due to changed circumstances. These aren't just statistics. Each number represents a family that lost their home, maybe not because they were trying to cheat the system, but because they didn't understand the rules or face unexpected life changes without proper planning. Most people think MOP is just the government making you wait 5 years before you can sell your flat, but that is only one part of MOP. The minimum occupational period is the minimum time you must physically live in your HDB flat before you can sell it, rent out the entire unit, or buy private property. According to HDB officials' conditions, you must physically reside in your flat throughout the entire MOP period. This means it must be your primary residence where you actually live, sleep, and conduct your daily life. For most HDB flats, MOP is 5 years from the date you collect your keys. There's also some exceptions like the Prime and Plus BTO flats and also the Fresh Start housing scheme, but we won't get into it, and either way, the calculation starts when you collect your keys and not when you book the flat or make payments. Here's what many people get wrong. Any period when you are not living in the flat doesn't count to your MOP. If you rent out the entire flat with approval for overseas posting, your MOP period extends by that time. Your 5-year clock essentially pauses whenever you are not physically residing there. During your MOP, you cannot sell your flat on the open market, you cannot rent out the entire flat, and you cannot buy or invest in private residential property, including holding property on trust for someone else. These restrictions apply to all owners and also essential occupiers listed on the flat. So, how do you get caught? HDB doesn't just rely on complaints to catch MOP violations. They have an active monitoring system that most Singaporeans don't know about. This means HDB conducts regular inspections to check if you're actually living in your flat. Officers look for signs of occupancy, personal belongings, furniture arranged for daily use, evidence of cooking and bathing. They can even show up unannounced during reasonable hours. They monitor utility usage patterns. If your electricity and water bills are unusually low for extended periods, this raises red flags. They cross-reference utility data with other indicators to determine actual residence. And of course, they investigate reports from the public, neighbors, and property agents. By the way, they take these reports very seriously and will conduct thorough investigations when violations are suspected. During resale transactions, HDB may also inspect your flat and review evidence to confirm you actually live there during the MOP period. This means even if you think you have avoided detection for 5 years, they can still catch violations when you try to sell. The enforcement data shows they actively use these monitoring methods. Remember the 54 enforcement cases from 2017 to 2022 that came from these various detection methods. Based on enforcement cases, there are 3 main misunderstandings that lead to MOP violations. The first misunderstanding is thinking MOP only applies to selling. Some people believe that as long as they don't sell their flat, they can do whatever they want with it. This is completely wrong. MOP requires physical residence regardless of whether you plan to sell. The second misunderstanding involves room rental versus whole flat rental. You can rent out individual bedrooms while continuing to live in the flat with proper HDB approval, but you cannot rent out the entire flat. Some people think they can keep one room locked while renting out the rest and not living there. HDB treat this as a whole flat rental, which violates MOP. That's it for prime and plus flats. Even after the longer MOP is completed, you cannot rent out the entire home. And the third misunderstanding is about temporary arrangements. Some people think short-term violations are acceptable, maybe renting out the flat for a couple of months during your family emergencies or staying elsewhere temporarily because of their career. MOP doesn't have exceptions for temporary situations unless you get a prior approval from HDB. These misunderstandings happens because people focus on technicalities rather than understanding the policy's purpose. The purpose of MOP? To ensure genuine residence so that the government can keep prices affordable for those who need them. Let me explain the real consequences because this is where it gets serious. Compulsory acquisition means HDB takes back your flat and resells it as a sales of balance flat. You completely lose your home. Residents whose flats are compulsorily acquired for MOP violations are banned from buying subsidized flats, taking over flats via ownership changes, or renting public rental flats for typically 5 years. This affects your entire family's housing options. Financial penalties can reach $50,000 depending on the violations. These are significant amounts that can affect your financial stability. Beyond official penalties, you face practical consequences. Losing your flat means finding alternative accommodations immediately, often at market rates much higher than HDB prices. The 5-year ban period forces you into private rental or expensive private property purchases. Your credit rating may be affected by the forced sale and penalties. This impacts your ability to get loans for future property purchase or other major financial decisions. The 258 BTO flats and 168 resale flats returned between 2017 and 2022 shows that even when people are deliberately violating rules, the consequences are the same. Life changes like divorce, death, medical issues, or financial hardship can force you to give up your flat if you can't maintain your MOP compliance. But there are legitimate ways to handle changing circumstances during MOP. They just require proper procedures and prior approval. For overseas work posting, you can apply to HDB for permission to rent out your entire flat. This requires official approval before you leave Singapore, and it extends your MOP period by the time you are overseas. The approval isn't just automatic. HDB evaluates each case based on employment documentations and other factors. For room rental, you can rent out individual bedrooms in flats with 3 rooms or more as long as you can continue living there and comply with HDB rental guidelines. This requires proper applications and tenant registrations through official channels. For genuine hardship situations, you can appeal to HDB for exceptions. Valid reasons include divorce, separation, death of owner, medical conditions requiring different accommodations, bankruptcy, serious financial difficulties, terminal illness, permanent disability, or mandatory overseas relocations. HDB reviews these appeals individually with supporting documentations. They may allow you to return the flat to HDB if your appeal is approved, but exceptions aren't guaranteed. If your appeal is rejected, you must continue fulfilling MOP requirements or face penalties. If your circumstances change and you are unsure about compliances, contact HDB directly rather than making assumptions or hoping problems resolve themselves. So, what do you do to remain compliant and protect your assets? First, maintain continuous physical residence in your flat. Keep detailed records throughout your MOP periods. Document your residence, save utility bills, maintain correspondence, and keep evidence that shows continuous occupations. This protects you if questions arise during resale or investigations. If you travel overseas frequently for work, ensure your flat remains your primary residence. Keep personal belongings there, maintain utility accounts, and document that you return regularly. Business travel doesn't violate MOP as long as the flat remains your home base. For room rental, get proper HDB approval before advertising or accepting tenants. Submit applications through official HDB channels, ensure tenants meet citizenships and income requirements, and maintain all rental documentations properly. Never attempt whole flat rental during MOP, even if you think you can avoid detection. The monitoring systems are comprehensive and the consequences unworth it. Here's a bonus tip with your MOP. Use your HDB MOP period strategically to plan your next housing moves. You can check your exact MOP completion date through the My HDB page website. Calculate when you will gain the rights to sell, rent out with approval, or purchase additional properties. If you are planning to upgrade to a larger HDB flat, research resale prices in your target areas during your MOP period. Understand market trends and price patterns so you can time your sale and purchase well. For those considering private property investments after MOP, use this time to improve your financial positions, build savings, strengthen your income, and prepare for additional financial commitments that comes with getting a private property. But most importantly, consider your long-term housing needs. Will your current flat meet your family needs in 5 to 10 years? Plan your upgrade path based on realistic assessments of your future requirements. At the end of the day, the MOP isn't there for fun. It is a policy designed to ensure public housing serves people with genuine housing needs, not investors or speculators. Understanding and respecting these rules protects both your individual investments and Singapore's broader public housing systems. First, if you currently have a HDB flat, verify your MOP completion date through official HDB channels. Second, ensure you are maintaining proper residence and keeping documentation of your compliance. Third, if you are planning for any major life changes, factor MOP requirements into your decisions before committing to changes that might affect your housing situations. Fourth, if you are facing difficulties that might affect MOP compliance, contact HDB early rather than hoping problems resolve themselves. And last but not least, for future property planning, understand that HDB MOP affects your timeline for selling, renting, or buying additional properties. Plan your housing decisions around these requirements, not despite them. If you are looking to get a HDB or already got one but did not understand the HDB MOP, I hope this video helps. I try to post content surrounding HDB to best help Singaporeans navigate their property journey at least once every week. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss the next one.